Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm Jason Miller. Tonight on the Evan Miller Report, the leader of Iraq's autonomous Kurdish region has said that his forces have broken the spine of the Daesh group with the help of international allies. We have the report tonight on that breaking story. In Nigeria, Chad troops are having trouble cooperating in the latest Boko Haram fight. Shock result in the Polish elections could signal a large power shift. And in the UK, David Cameron, his new Conservative cabinet, is to meet for the first time, including the London mayor. I'm Jason Miller. You're listening to the Evan Miller Report for this Monday, May the 11th. Also on tonight's program, an ex-CIA officer, Jeffrey Sterling, is being jailed for leaking classified information. In D.C. news, President Obama sends a handwritten note to which BS artist? We'll tell you who. This as he is in a brawl with the likes of Senator Elizabeth Warren. We have all those stories and more, plus Corey Evans.
Thank you, Jay. When the EU needs help with migrants flooding in, who do they call? The United Nudists. A family gets kicked off United Airlines because of their autistic daughter? This kind of sounds to me like
global socialism.
Volvo chooses South Carolina, that's right, Jay, North South Carolina, to invest their $500 million and create jobs. Now that's a safe bet. Al Jazeera's legal woes spread back to Qatar as a journalist sues for Egyptian negligence. And Simon Cowell's absence from American Idol has taken its toll. That's all coming up on tonight's episode of your conservative news source, the Evan Miller Report, starting now.
Live from Southern California, this is the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics, Corey Evan with business and entertainment. This is the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media. Here now, Jason Miller.
And a very good evening on this Monday, May the 11th, 2015. I'm Jason Miller. I hope you all had a great weekend. All right, folks, before we get to the news this evening, we have a bit of housekeeping business to take care of here on the program tonight. First, I'd like to start off in announcing that we are once again no longer affiliated with the likes of the Pundit Press. That's Pundit Press Radio, more predominantly. That is usually an affiliate of the Evan Miller Report. They have decided to no longer carry our program on their website. As obviously I found out about this information late last night. Don't know why Pundit Press has decided to do that, but obviously their management has their own decisions. They have decided to do so. Obviously, there was no money changing hands in this, so this is not costing us anything as far as this affiliation is concerned here. Obviously, we had a lot of listeners and a lot of people who went to the Pundit Press website to check out our program day in and day out. So we encourage people who are maybe coming over to the SHR Media Network today to listen to today's broadcast if they're not finding it on the Pundit Press. If you can't listen to us live, you can listen to us on the down low on Spreaker and iHeartRadio. Just search the Evan Miller Show. That is our search parameters within Spreaker and within iHeartRadio, and you can listen to us when you can't listen to us live. You can listen to us recorded there. As I stated, no longer with Pundit Press Radio. Obviously, we respect Pundit Press's decision to carry whatever programs that they wish to carry on their website. And we should also note that the SHR Weekender is no longer available on the Pundit Press as well. We encourage you to check out, of course, Corey Evan on the weekends at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific, right here on SHR Media, also available as well on Spreaker. All right, folks, after that housekeeping out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get to the news this evening. The leader of Iraq's autonomous Kurdish region, Masjid Barizian, said on Monday his forces have broken the spine of the likes of Islamic State or Daesh with the help of international allies. Thanks to the Kurds' opposition and the help of their friends in the coalition, the spine of the Islamic State is broken, Barzani said after talks with Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Budapest. Hungary recently joined the fight against the likes of ISIS or Daesh by committing to send some 150 troops to Iraqi Kurdistan's capital, Erbil. Barzani said that although the danger is not over, he was hopeful the days of the brutal militant organization were numbered. The Kurdish president is in Budapest on an official state visit after wrapping up a trip to Washington where he met President Obama to discuss the situation in Iraq. Barzani appealed for more humanitarian aid and asked the U.S. to arm his Peshmerga forces directly instead of passing through the federal government in Baghdad. To Nigeria now, where Chad's President Idris Deby said today in Nigeria's capital Abuja that the fight against Islamist Boko Haram insurgents was being hindered by the failure of the two countries' troops to work together. He said there were plans to form a rapid response force for the African Union troops of the four countries around the Lake Chad Basin: Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon. Speaking to reporters after a meeting with Nigeria's outgoing president, Goodluck Jonathan, Deby said he was disappointed that a joint agreement with Nigeria was not working. Chad has repeatedly complained about the lack of cooperation between the two armies since they lodged offensives against the Islamist militant group earlier this year. Deby also met President-elect Mohamed Buhari, who beat Jonathan in the March 28th polls. It is regrettable that the two armies, that is the Nigerian army and Chadian army, are working separately in the field. If they are operating jointly, they would have achieved more results, President Deby told the press. Over to Poland now, where President Boslaw Komorowski has lost the first round of the country's presidential election to a previously unknown 42-year-old member of the European Parliament, in what is being called the biggest shock in Polish politics in years. The defeat for the communist-era dissident was long pulled close as one of the nation's most trusted leaders is a sign that the parliamentary elections this fall could be unpredictable. It could even signal a possible return to power for Law and Justice, the right-wing group backing Sunday's winning presidential candidate, Andrzej Duda. A runoff in 2 weeks will decide the final outcome. In the first round, Komorowski took 33.8% of the votes compared to a 34.8% for Duda, according to the official results released early Tuesday. In all, there were 11 candidates. The result is undeniably a defeat for Komorowski, a center-right leader who earlier this year was expected to win far above 50% of the vote, avoiding a runoff altogether. When the Law and Justice ran the government once before from the year 2005 to 2007, Poland clashed repeatedly with officials in Brussels and ties with ally Germany grew strained. The party has also been extremely critical of Russia. Party leader Jarosław Kaczyński has blamed Russia's President Vladimir Putin for the death of his twin brother, the late President Leonid Kaczyński, in a 2010 plane crash, yet no evidence has emerged to back up his theory. And speaking after post-election here in the UK, we have the latest on the new cabinet in the UK this evening, as well as Dave Miliband, Ed Miliband's brother, speaking for the first time. We first start off with that new cabinet tonight. David Cameron says that the Conservatives are the real party of working people, as he chairs the first all-Tory cabinet for over 18 years. The Prime Minister has assembled his new team following the Conservatives' general election victory last week, which you heard right here on SHR, promoting a number of leading female ministers. He will say measures to boost employment and lower the welfare gap will be his first Queen's speech. An increase in free child for 3- and 4-year-olds will also feature. And as we said, we'll get to a moment on Ed Miliband's brother, David Miliband, criticizing his brother in New York. But first, some of the new cabinet faces. Sajid David is now the new business secretary. Amber Rudd it has been nominated as the Energy and Climate Change Secretary. God forbid help us with climate change, but I don't understand why they have that position, but we'll find out soon enough. While Anna Sobri and Priti Patel will attend cabinet as small business and employment ministers. Greg Hands is chief secretary to the Treasury, while veteran Tory MP John Whittendale is now the new Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport. Boris Johnson, who is the new London mayor as well as MP, is not a minister but will attend separate Tory political cabinet meetings under his position as a non-MP role, I should say. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Halfland is deputy chairman of the Conservative Party and minister without portfolio. And Greg Shapps has moved from party chairman to international development minister. Moving on to those comments now, ex-Foreign Secretary David Miliband has criticized his brother Ed Miliband's leadership of the Labour Party, saying voters did not want what was being offered. He was talking to the BBC in New York, talking about the leadership having allowed itself to be portrayed as moving backwards. He said, quote, "There was absolutely no point blaming voters for Labour's defeat." But Mr. Miliband, who was beaten to the job of leader by his younger sibling back in 2010, also said the two of them would remain brothers for life. He ruled himself out of becoming the party's next leader, although that would not be possible anyway, as he is not an MP. Mr. Miliband quit Parliament back in 2013 to work for the International Rescue Committee charity, which is in New York, where he did that interview with the BBC today. Ed Miliband, meanwhile, resigned as Labour leader last week in the aftermath of the general election, which left his party on 232 seats, with the Conservatives securing an overall majority. And a surprise in UKIP today, as Nigel Farage is to remain as UKIP leader after the party rejected his resignation last week. Mr. Farage had previously said he would stand down after failing to win a seat in last week's general election. But the UKIP party said there was overwhelming evidence that UKIP members did not want Mr. Farage to go. Writing in the Daily Telegraph, Mr. Farage said he had been reluctant but decided he owed it to the party to stay on as leader. UKIP won a 13% vote share in the election, some 3.8 million votes, and has one MP, Douglas Carswell, who held his Clacton seat. It puts the party in third place behind the Conservatives and Labour in terms of share of the vote. Mr. Farage failed to gain the seat of Thatten South, losing out to Conservative candidate Craig McKinney. But speaking about his defeat, he insisted that he has never felt happier with a weight lifted off his shoulders. Party chairman Steve Cawthorne said the National Executive Committee believed the election campaign had been a great success and members had unanimously rejected Mr. Farage's letter of resignation. The statement said, partially in quote, "He has therefore been persuaded to withdraw his resignation and remains leader of the UKIP party." And I'll bring in my co-host, Corey Evan, here in on this conversation. You know, very surprising with UKIP. They are not taking this defeat crying. They're taking this as a happy thing because they believe, Corey, that they got their message through, that they got Conservatives to still get into office and kept the likes of Ed Miliband out of Downing Street over in the UK. And it further presses the point of UKIP and pressing David Cameron for his promise in 2017 to put a referendum on pulling the UK out of Europe once and for all. Okay, looks like we don't have Corey Evan there. Looks like we lost him there. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. All right, folks, at that note, since we're having an issue with Corey tonight, we're going to go ahead and take a short break. When we come back on tonight's program, Corey Evan, we'll have the latest on the migrant situation going on in the Mediterranean. He will update us when we come back on tonight's program. Also, tonight, an ex-CIA officer is being jailed for leaking classified information. And golf leaders back out of Camp David summit to snub President Obama. I'm Jason Miller. You're listening to the Evan Miller Report, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Evan Miller Report. I'm Corey Evans. Sorry there. Not only did I have mic trouble, now I'm having vocal trouble. But never mind, I shall recover as we get back into the news. Internationally, Europe appealed to the United Nudist Security Council on Monday, according to the Voice of America News, to back its plans to stem the flow of migrants across the Mediterranean and pledged that those intercepted at sea while making the precarious trip would not be repatriated. EU leaders agreed last month to identify, capture, and destroy vessels before they're used by traffickers, but it's unclear how that may be achieved, and the 28-nation bloc wants United Nudist authorization for its operation. EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini said to the Security Council that details of the operation were still being worked out, and the issue would be discussed by European foreign ministers on May 18th. She also said that the complex crisis of African and Arab migrants seeking to make their way to Europe using smugglers, who often leave them to perish at sea, does not have one magic solution, but rather requires a comprehensive response. This year, more than 1,800 people fleeing poverty, conflict, and oppression died trying to cross the Mediterranean into Europe. Many have paid their life savings and more to unscrupulous traffickers to send them to sea aboard vessels that are unsafe and overcrowded. Mogherini was clear that rescued migrants would not be forcibly repatriated. Most of the migrants are traveling to Europe through Libya, which has descended into chaos nearly 4 years after the fall of Gaddafi. Two competing governments backed by the militia are scrambling for control of the oil-producing country. And as soon as we get more updates on this story, we will bring them to you. Boats carrying nearly 600 Bangladeshis and long-persecuted Rohingya Muslims from Myanmar landed Sunday in western Indonesia, with some migrants needing medical care, officials and a non-profit organization said to the AP. Thousands more are believed to be stranded at sea. Steve Hamilton of the International Organization for Migration in Indonesian capital said his teams were racing to the Aceh province of subdistrict of Senundan, where the boats offloaded. Of the 4 vessels that arrived, 3 had been abandoned by the smugglers, and the other ran out of gas, he said. Most of the migrants were men, but there were also 98 women and 51 children, officials said, adding that many were sick and weak. And we will also keep an eye on the Indonesian migrant updates. A lot of boats at sea that shouldn't be, but hopefully we can deal with at least the bulk of them in the near future. But right now, we will sail home for our use. Find that when we land on the docks, we step off onto the docks and find that the place has had twisters hit it. From USA Today, a massive cleanup and hunt for the missing were underway today after a line of tornadoes and wild storms roared through the nation's tornado alley, killing 5 and injuring dozens. More than 24 tornadoes ripped through parts of Arkansas, Iowa, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Texas on Sunday. This according to National Weather Service meteorologist Greg Carbon. The storms are the latest in a string of recent storms. A tornado Saturday near Cisco, Texas, killed 1 person, and tornadoes are still possible in southern Texas and around the Great Lakes for the rest of the day. This according to him. Been posted in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Kentucky. A couple died while shielding their daughter from a twister hit that hit their mobile home late Sunday in the Arkansas town of Nashville. Michael and Melissa Mooneyhan were trying to protect their daughter. Parents' trailer flipped over and blew up, according to Howard County Coroner John Gray. In Van, Texas, Van Zandt County Fire Marshal Chuck Allen said a man and a woman died and 43 people were taken to hospitals after a tornado tore through the county Sunday night. 3 people remained missing. The tornado that tore through Van was rated as an EF3, according to the Weather Service reported Monday afternoon. It had winds estimated upwards of 140 miles an hour. About 30% of the city suffered some kind of damage, and 50 people, in the town of 2,700 sought shelter with the American Red Cross. This according to Allen. County Judge Don Kirkpatrick thanked the public for pouring a support. And there are plenty more developments coming out of the tornado alley, and we will bring those to you as pertinent details become available. But in the meantime, if you plan to help out with the cleanup efforts, just go to the American Red Cross website. We'll post that up on the Facebook page, facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report. Oh, Jay, this is going to be interesting for the Sarnia crisis. A Roman Catholic nun famous for counseling the condemned on death row took the witness stand in federal court Monday and vouched for a Muslim jihadist facing possible death sentence. Sister Helen Prigine was the final defense witness at the death penalty trial of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. She said she believes Tsarnaev was genuinely sorry for the pain and suffering he did on his victims. Yeah, right. Prigine is a staunch opponent of the death penalty, but that's not why she testified, they say. Instead, she spoke briefly about 5 meetings with Tsarnaev since March, when testimony in his trial began. Of course, of the 30 counts, including setting off weapons of mass destruction in a public place, 17 of those counts involved the possibility of the death penalty. Prigine counsels death row prisoners and was the basis of the 1995 movie Dead Man Walking, in which actress Susan Sarandon won an Academy for playing the role of the death row nun. Prigine said she agreed to meet with Tsarnaev, quote, for the same reason I visit with other people who have done really terrible crimes. Her goal is not to convert the prisoners, but to accompany them and be with them and give them some dignity. Prigine first met with Tsarnaev. Yeah, I know, dignity. Define dignity, sir. Oh, wait, you can't. She's busy. Anyway, he's being held under strict security measures at a federal prison outside Boston, Tsarnaev is. And details here tell me that she was not being paid to testify, quote, not a dime, she said. Jurors appeared to listen closely when prosecutors called 2 rebuttal witnesses to testify about the restrictions that would be in place on Tsarnaev if he were incarcerated at ADX Florence in Colorado, which is a supermax penitentiary known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Hopefully they can't.
Yeah, we
would be
hope
monitored
they lock him up and throw away the key, for sure.
Yeah, that's according to Warden John Oliver. Wait a minute, John Oliver? Where'd
that come from?
Yeah, never mind. It's just a coinky-dink, I think. He might at some point be able to get a prison job, such as cleaning the showers, or he might be moved into the general population, Oliver said, but the level of freedom he'd enjoy could be determined only by the Justice Department and the agencies that investigated and prosecuted Tsarnaev, not the prison staff. Too complicated, if you ask me. I think that the jury should just vote for the death penalty. I mean, it would save the taxpayers a lot of headache, but knowing Massachusetts, it could be.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, I think it's split in Massachusetts on people who want to actually put Tsarnaev to death and who want to put the death penalty. This is really riddled the people of Massachusetts, you know, and I know the people of Massachusetts have a say in it, but at the same time, they're not the ones who have to make the decision, and as this is a federally prosecuted case, and this is not a state case, you know, this could go either way. But you know what?
Right.
For all people, I am for one, when it comes to corporal punishment, when it comes to death penalty, I am all for it, especially to the likes of this guy, even though he will consider himself a martyr if he gets the death penalty. I think, ladies and gentlemen, he should just be thrown out in a desert and guarded by a couple guards and die out in a desert, or in the middle of a desert. You know,
either that or drop a dumpster on him.
Well, either way, Corey Evan, you know, that I would like him to suffer for what he did, because he killed many Americans in this country, and on top of it, you know, him and his brother,
injured hundreds.
Yeah, injured. I said many. Many means hundreds. It could mean hundreds, and as I said, these families now have to suffer for the rest of their lives. With not having family members, whether it has to do with mothers, fathers, children, or even people who have just been injured. They don't have legs, they don't have arms, they have a lot of mental damage done because of this kid and his brother, who is now dead. So, I didn't mean to get into a full-on speech and debate on the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm just a little passionate about the issue. All right, folks,
and I don't blame you, honestly, because I would hope that they would vote in favor of that death penalty, but we will have to wait and see on that one, because the defense has rested their case.
So we will, of course, see what happens there. All right, Corey, what else you got for us tonight?
A weekend revolt at a Nebraska maximum security prison. That's what I got for you. That saw inmates temporarily take control of half the housing units left, leaving 2 prisoners dead, according to authorities. Today, probably killed by other inmates during the melee. This, according to San Francisco Gate. 4 other prisoners were injured and 2 staff assaulted at Tecumseh State Correctional Institution, about 60 miles southwest of Lincoln, which houses serious offenders, including Nebraska's 11 death row inmates. Corrections Director Stott Frakes said the disturbance began 2:30 p.m. Sunday. 40 inmates gathered in front of a housing unit. The 2 prison staffers were attacked when they tried to break up the gathering. Frakes describes the fracas, an 11-hour fracas, that is, during which 100 to 200 of the roughly 1,000 inmates at the prison participated in revolt. They took control of 2 of the 4 housing units, broke windows, tore down a wall dividing housing units, and removed security cameras, he said. Some prison staff barricaded themselves in offices. Smoke rose from the 2 housing units on Sunday, and driveways to the prison were blocked. The housing units suffered fire, smoke, and water damage. The Lincoln Star reported it received a call from inmate Jeffrey Frank just before 11 p.m. Sunday via a case manager's office phone. Mr. Frank told the newspaper that no prison employees were inside the housing unit and described the scene. The ceilings are fallen, there's drywall on fire, there's cameras torn down. This according to the Journal-Star. Once they regained control, authorities discovered the bodies of Donald Peacock and Sean Collins, both 46, who were serving sentences for child sexual assault. Well, at least they don't have to deal with that one. But Peacock began serving a 40 to 50-year sentence in March last year. Collins had been in prison since May 2010 and was serving 66 to 80 years. Fracas said it appeared that they had been killed by other inmates, but he wouldn't give details. Tecumseh facility spokesman Rick Sana declined to comment on whether the crimes were a factor in the deaths. And the will remain on lockdown until further notice. While officials decide how to proceed, the fire marshal was trying to determine if one of the damaged housing units could safely used again to house. Yeah, that one's got me all choked up. And prosecutors plan to seek the death penalty for a man charged with killing his mother, throwing his 5-year-old half-brother in a river, and leaving his 11-month-old half-brother in a dumpster. Douglas County Attorney Don Klein, this according to the Journal-Star, said Monday that several aggravating factors exist in the case against Roberto Martinez Marinero. Authorities say Martinez Marinero surrendered to police Thursday and said he'd stabbed his mother, 45-year-old Jesus Ismenia Marinero. The 25-year-old man had thrown Josue Ramirez Marinero into the Elkhorn River and put Angel Ramirez Marinero in a dumpster. Authorities found a body Monday that investigators believe is Josue, but a forensic examination will be conducted for confirmation. The boy's family has been identified. Disgusting case to say the least. And I will wrap up our national news with another one from the George Zimmerman files. Yeah, I know. Oh, brother. Even if that's off air. Now you're on air. Sorry to bring it up again. Well, Zimmerman says he suffered minor injuries in a shooting in Central Florida Monday after the controversial gunslinger allegedly waved a gun at another man during an ongoing dispute, a 911 caller said. A bullet fired at the 31-year-old in Lake Mary missed, but sprayed him with glass and other debris from his vehicle, his attorney Don West said. Zimmerman, who was famously acquitted in the shooting death of Trayvon Martin, was released from a local hospital shortly after being treated, he said. As of Monday evening, public info Bianca Gillette said no arrests had been made or charges filed, and they're still waiting to speak with both Apperson and Zimmerman. She additionally said they have yet to determine how or why the incident took place, as well as exactly where. Whether Zimmerman was armed at the time is unconfirmed as well, Gillette said. Zimmerman's latest bout with the law comes just a few months after the 3-year anniversary of Martin's February 17th shooting death, which led to mass demonstrations and rioting across the country. Yeah. This kind of makes Zimmerman wish that he had won the lottery, but never mind. I think we better move on to business before Jay goes off on a tirade about Mr. Zimmerman.
Let's just leave it alone, shall we? The business news starts now.
And not a moment too soon, but it was a rather light Monday on Wall Street. The Dow lost 85 points at 18,105. The Nasdaq just short of 10 points at 49.93, and the S&P 500 lost a little over 10 points at 21.05. The Nasdaq Stock Exchange, though, is tapping Bitcoin's powerful new transaction tech to create a more secure, efficient system to trade stocks, according to CNN Money. Most people have heard of Bitcoin as a system of electronic money, which hasn't really caught on yet, but what gets less attention is blockchain, the tech that powers Bitcoin. It's a computer program that automatically processes transactions and creates a perfect, reliable digital record, they say. High-tech bankers are starting to realize that this could revolutionize trading. Nasdaq, a favorite exchange among many tech companies, is making the first move. On Monday, it'll start using a blockchain system. On Monday, they announced they'll start using a blockchain system to keep records for its Nasdaq private market, which handles the trading of shares in the pre-IPO phase before a company goes public. There we are. NASDAQ sees the blockchain's perfect record-keeping, quote-unquote, as a major step in the right direction for more transparency. The pre-IPO market doesn't typically see as much trading, and what does occur is often by a tight circle of employees and early investors. Hopefully not inside traders, but at any rate. This doesn't mean NASDAQ's using actual Bitcoins, but by using their core tech, this could be a major acknowledgement of Bitcoin's contribution to finance and trade. It's the first time the world's seen a trading system that doesn't require a trusted middle management team. It sounds boring, but in the banking world, it's revolutionary, they say. And I'm sure Etsy, the online marketplace for crafts, could use something as secure as the technology here. But it's seeing a lot of selling today. It's not a run on jewelry and handmade blouses, though. Investors are dumping the stock after Wall Street analysts warned that as many as 2 million items for sale on Etsy, about 5% of all goods on site, could be knockoffs and violate trademark laws. Ugh. Etsy stock plunged over 8%. It's the latest blemish on a company that went public with a big IPO less than a month ago. It closed at $30 on its first trading day on April 16th, but now it's barely above $20. From the start, there were concerns about how Etsy could grow into a behemoth online retailer along the lines of eBay or Amazon, given that Etsy's focus is all about handmade and niche goods. Think of it as a giant craft fair. Some have also questioned whether Etsy was selling out to Wall Street and would lose its alternative image and customer base. But a new report from research firm Wedbush laid on even more doubts about Etsy's ability to grow the business. Wedbush highlights numerous instances where Disney, NFL, and Louis Vuitton brands could potentially sue for copyright infringement. And when those lawsuits come up, they will appear in lawsuits across America. So stay tuned for the latest on Etsy. But more importantly, Volvo announced today that it will build a $500 million factory in Berkeley County, South Carolina, to produce 100,000 cars a year. Construction on the Swedish automaker's first U.S. plant, according to the Miami Herald, will start this fall with the first cars produced in 2018, probably for the 2019 model year. The South Carolina plant will add to 4 Volvo factories in Europe and China, where the automaker's parent company is based. Volvo usually makes 2 models of vehicles at its plants, company spokesman Jim Nichols said, but the automaker hasn't decided which 2 to build in South Carolina, or if it's going to be more or less. Volvo could employ up to 2,000 workers in the decade after the plant opens, and another 2,000 by 2030, the South Carolina Department of Commerce said. The state employs 46,000 automotive industry workers, including hundreds of suppliers, according to the South Carolina Automotive Council. So, Jay, a big-time investment from a very safe company. How safe do you think this bet is?
It could be very safe, very good for business. My only question is, which part of South Carolina is it? Is it in the north part of South Carolina or south part of South Carolina?
Yeah, we joke about geography, but
gentlemen.
Yes. It's one of our running gags. Maybe that's what... no, I won't say that.
No,
Stop myself on there.
Do that.
But never mind. Yeah, let's just say that Bill Cosby's still haunted by it.
Speak of Bill Cosby, let's all cue up the old Cosby. Where are you, Billy? Are you still here with us? Oh, yes, he is.
This show going, don't you know?
And, his TV career's been in the dump for a long time.
Yeah, certainly is, ladies and gentlemen. We are a little bit of a fan of Bill Cosby. All right, Corey Evan with the business news. Thank you very much for that.
Got it.
But, ladies and gentlemen, Corey's not finished yet, because now he's going to give us an update on tonight's continuing battle. If I have that theme ready, here we go. What's that continuing battle?
It is our continuing battle against global socialism. And if you're one who likes to fly a lot, listen up, because this one is a very important one if you've got kids. An Oregon mom, according to NBC News, has filed a complaint against United Airlines after it removed her and her family from a flight because it said her 15-year-old daughter, who has autism, had become disruptive. The woman, Dr. Donna Beagle of Tigard, Oregon, a prominent advocate for anti-poverty programs who frequently consult with state and federal government agencies, was returning home with her family from a trip to Walt Disney World last week when her daughter Juliet became agitated because she was hungry during a layover in Houston, Beagle said. Beagle said that after she persuaded a flight attendant to give her daughter some hot food, Juliet had calmed down and was quietly watching a movie when the next thing we hear is we're doing an emergency landing in Salt Lake City, Beagle told NBC station KGW of Portland, Oregon. We have a passenger on board with a behavior issue. Police officers boarded the plane and escorted the entire family off, Beagle told the station. Quote, as a mom, it ripped my heart out, she said. I was shaking, unquote. The incident was recorded in a video posted to YouTube that Beagle authenticated. In the video, a passenger can be heard remarking, it's ridiculous. Another says, that's going to be a lawsuit. Yes, I can't wait to report on this one in lawsuits across America. Yeah.
Oh, they shouldn't have used the term lawsuit. Now Corey Evan is going to be going after this story with a vengeance.
Yes, especially after United. Beagle called the incident a sheer case of ignorance, adding, prejudice, ignorance, and mistreatment are all too common toward people facing poverty, she added. The parallels between special needs and poverty are striking in that both are causes for judgment, misunderstanding, and mistreatment. In a statement, United said its crew made the best decision for the safety and comfort of all our customers and elected to divert to Salt Lake City after the situation became disruptive. Beagle said Saturday that she's filed official complaints with United and the FAA, and that she plans to sue the airline, not for money, but rather to ask that airline staff receive training. Let's hope they do, Jay, because honestly, she's a 15-year-old with autism. And that combined with teenage hormones, you have to imagine that it makes it that much more difficult to control any little tics that come up.
Well, let's keep the hormones out of it. It's just wrong what United did completely. And they're not keeping that family united. Ladies and gentlemen, I would even further go to say, don't fly United. Go ahead and fly Southwest next time. That is if Southwest is carrying over in the region. If not, I go with my good friends over at JetBlue.
Yeah, I think at least Southwest are. I'll verify JetBlue later.
Absolutely. Well, we will see on that. What else you got in tonight's Global Socialism?
The legalization of marijuana remains hotly debated, Jay, but for Morgan Freeman, there's no question. This from People magazine, the 77-year-old Oscar winner, well known for his deep mellow voice, spoke candidly about his own MJ use during an interview with the Daily Beast last week. Quote, legalize it.
Did he just quote and say, I smoke pot?
Yeah, he also said, legalize it across the board, the Lucy actor said. Apparently, he became an advocate for medicinal use of the drug after shattering his left shoulder, arm, and elbow in a little car fender bender in 2008. He's still not regained full use of his left hand and continues to experience pain, which inspires his support for the medicinal use of the drug. He told The Beast, marijuana has many useful uses. I have fibromyalgic pain in this arm, and the only thing that offers any relief is marijuana. They're talking about kids who have grand mal seizures, and they've discovered that marijuana eases that down to where these children can have a life. There we are. I had a little trouble reading that copy. The Five Flights upstar had said his first wife initially introduced him to marijuana. How do I take it? However it comes. I'll eat it, drink it, smoke it, snort it, Freeman said. Thanks a lot for that one, Freeman. He's definitely gone to the city of marijuana.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it, ladies and gentlemen. I did predicted it even before Corey Evan read the story. I smoke pot. It's coming from Morgan Freeman. Breaking news. Breaking news.
Nah, I think it's just the news. Yes, unfortunately.
On that note, I think it's time to wrap up tonight's Global Socialism segment. Don't you think, Corey?
Yes. You got my theme?
Got it. Go.
There we are. So, when will big business learn that all men and their daughters are not created equal? Where is this city of marijuana so we can go and burn it down? And why, if my sleeping pills are non-habit forming, can't I sleep without them? Stay tuned for developments in our continuing battle against global socialism.
Corey Evan with tonight's Global Socialism. Thank you very much. Corey Evan will be back in just a moment with tonight's lawsuits across America. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we have the D.C. news tonight. A former CIA officer, Jeffrey Sterling, has spoke to a journalist in Washington about the CIA. Now a judge has sentenced him to prison for 3.5 years for revealing classified information. Sterling, 47, stood in front of a judge in Alexandria Federal Court in the U.S. state of Virginia. "You have a lot of talent and ability to live a law-abiding life," said Judge Leon Burkham, but she said the offenses he had committed were severe. "There has to be a clear message sent to other people at the agency," she said, explaining the intelligence officers should understand that they too will be punished if they disclose classified information. There's going to be a price that will be paid. After the court adjourned, Mr. Sterling turned around. His wife Holly sobbed against his shoulder. He reached out his arm stiffly to comfort her and then walked out of the courtroom altogether. It's the end of a legal battle for him. It also concludes a trial that's been watched closely by some journalists, intelligence officers, and others in the U.S. and abroad. In January, Mr. Sterling was convicted of espionage on charges that he revealed classified information when he spoke to a journalist, James Risen, who writes for the New York Times, about the efforts of U.S. officials to disrupt Iran's nuclear program. More on this story if information becomes available. Many Gulf heads of state have said they will not attend a summit of U.S. and allied Arab leaders at Camp David later this week. Their substitution with more junior leaders is being seen as a rebuff to President Obama's negotiations recently over Iran and its nuclear ambitions. King Salman of Saudi Arabia announced on Sunday that he would not be attending. According to White House spokesman and BS artist Josh Earnest, he said, quote, "Saudi Arabia has not raised concerns about anything on the summit agenda." The talks in Camp David near Washington were designed to reassure the Arab allies of the U.S. to support a number of issues, including talks with Iran and instability in several Arab states. They will now be largely attended by leaders at the ministerial level. The official reason for the Saudi leaders' abstinence is the summit coincides with the humanitarian ceasefire in Yemen, where the Saudi-led alliance is battling Shia Houthi rebels. Well, we know that's the official statement coming out, but I think, ladies and gentlemen, we all know what it is, and it's the likeliness in this story. Some of these Arab countries will have nothing to do with this president when it comes to Iran, because it is toxic. Moving on and staying with President Obama, it's been found that he sent a letter to Senate Majority Leader and BS artist Mitch McConnell, a handwritten note, in fact, thanking McConnell for his recent backing of Loretta Lynch as Attorney General. And we wonder why, ladies and gentlemen, D.C. is so messed up. Why, people of Kentucky, did you decide to re-elect that little beep? I just gotta say it. Now back to the story. The Kentucky senator spoke about his role in the latest political odd couple on Sunday during a speech at the Edward M. Kennedy Institute in Boston. McConnell was the inaugural speaker for the Getting to the Point series. McConnell spoke of his aspirations to be a senator, occupying Kennedy's office in the Russell Building, and his drive to get work done in the Senate, or as I like to say, lack thereof, with his outreach to Democrats. The senator said his first goal in life was to be a baseball player, but I guess my passion for procedure proved stronger than my pitching arm. I beg to differ, ladies and gentlemen. I think baseball would have been much better for the likes of Mitch McConnell. Maybe he would have thrown a better curveball in the majors than what he's doing to the American people. Don't you agree, Corey Evans?
Yes, he's striking out, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah, especially with that money he took for that dam project.
Ooh.
DAM, for those of you.
Ooh, very good. See, ladies and gentlemen, we do keep records for our politicians here on the Evan Miller Report. So, and
yeah, that just came to mind. But anyway, go ahead.
Hey, there you go. Corey Evan, you're keeping up to date, keeping the people up to date. That's the good thing. All right, one more piece of DC news before I send it over to Corey Evan for tonight's Lawsuits Across America. In an interview recently with Yahoo News that ran over the weekend, President Obama has intensified his pushback against Senator Elizabeth Warren and other critics of the massive Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal, flatly declaring that Warren is absolutely wrong. This came after a speech Obama delivered at Nike headquarters in which he continued making an expansive case for the deal as a plus for American workers. and not the massive giveaway to huge international corporations that critics fear. This week, the Senate will vote on whether to grant Obama fast-track authority to negotiate the TPP agreement, which involves a dozen countries around the Pacific and could impact 40% of U.S. trade. If the fast-track framework passes, Congress would hold only an up or down vote on the TPP once it is finalized without amendments. But Congress could also repeal that fast-track authority if the TPP is not to its liking and try to push changes to it before any final vote. And ladies and gentlemen, you have heard recently on this program, we believe the likes of the Trans-Pacific Partnership is bad news and will eliminate free trade as we know it here in the U.S. And that's just our opinion here at the Evan Miller Report. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for tonight's Lawsuits Across America.
And now it's time for Lawsuits Across America. The cases are real. All rise for the Honorable Corey Evans.
Yeah. Sit, people. We gotta get to this thing right away. We got a lot of stories to... Actually, I'll go ahead and reduce it to 2, and I'll post whatever I can't put up during this broadcast on our Facebook page. But as I mentioned earlier, an Al Jazeera journalist is on trial in Egypt suing the Qatar-based network for negligence. That's what he's doing today, according to his lawyer. According to the BBC, Mohamed Fahmy, a Canadian citizen, filed a lawsuit at a court in Canada last week seeking 100 million Canadian bucks, about 83 million of ours, in damages, according to Joanna Gislason, in Cairo. Mr. Fahmy and 2 other journalists were jailed last year for spreading false news to help a terrorist group, but their convictions were overturned on appeal and a retrial was ordered. The journalists strenuously deny collaborating with the banned Muslim Brotherhood after the overthrow of President Mohamed Morsi by the military in 2013. They say they were jailed simply for reporting the news. The lawsuit asked the court to declare Al Jazeera negligent in its conduct towards its English channel's Cairo bureau chief and sought punitive and remedial damages for its role in his conviction and subsequent imprisonment. She was cited as saying by the Reuters news agency. After his release on bail in February, Mr. Fahmy accused Al Jazeera of epic negligence, or as we like to call it, epic quality Arab television and death to America.
Well said.
And this one from WNCN out of North Carolina. A Raleigh PD officer suing Starbucks over a hot coffee will not... Yeah, South North Carolina, Jay. Anyway, he will not get the $750,000 he sought. In fact, he won't even get $750. He gets nothing. He loses. Good day, sir. Anyway, when court let out Friday, the jury was split 11-1. On Monday morning, after a bit of deliberation, they were then split 10-2. That's when Judge Donald Stevens conferred with lawyers from both sides of the case and sent the jury back to deliberate with a new set of rules. After that, it was just minutes until the jury returned with a verdict. Mr. Matthew Kaur, the plaintiff in this case, injured by the, quote, negligence of the Starbucks Corporation, will not be getting a penny from Starbucks, and the jury decided his claim that a coffee cup collapsed on itself after he visited the Starbucks on Peace Street, spilling piping hot coffee all over him and irritating his Crohn's disease to the point of surgery, just wasn't believable. Kaur wouldn't answer questions, but did make a brief statement to the media. Quote, Melanie and I just want to thank all our friends and family for all the support, Kaur said. They've been fantastic throughout this whole ordeal. We also wanted to thank the jury of 12 for coming together and taking the matter seriously. I really appreciate during their subject with our dispute. Blah, 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 blah. Goes on and on and on. It's a lot of me. Yes, I declare today's Lawsuits Across America because the rest of it is just me, because there's one about Clinton in there. I'll just post that up on the Facebook page. And for the moment, it's case dismissed.
All right, Corey Evan with tonight's Lawsuits Across America. And now Corey Evan has the ever short entertainment report, because we don't give you the BS in Hollywood. We give you the real news out of Hollywood. Hollywood. Take it away.
Yes, and in Hollywood, idol worship is coming to an end. American Idol, the most successful TV show of the 21st century and the birthplace of stars like Kelly Clarkson and Carrie Underwood, will end after its 15th season in spring 2015. This according to Fox Network announcing today. While Idol suffered a precipitous ratings drop in the last few years, especially after Simon Cowell decided it was time to leave, it has remained a contemporary television touchstone, of course. It revolutionized the long-standing genre of talent shows by focusing on the individual drama of the contestants and introducing judges with attitude, particularly Simon. After reportedly planning to do her outstanding community service every day until she has completed her court order, Lindsay Lohan has finally returned to the US, Jay. I'll just warn you on that one, and then I'll go ahead and read your box office numbers. Avengers Age of Ultron remained at number 1, bringing in not the 90 mil that they said it might bring in, just 77.7 million, but it's still a lucky number, 777. Still a winning number for number 1, and Hot Pursuit was behind it quite a long ways at 13.9 million, but with an additional 5.8 million, The Age of Adeline has held on to 3rd place.
Not bad at all. Corey Evans,
There's
tonight's entertainment report. Ever short and brief tonight, thank you very much for that. And you know what? That Age of Adeline film, so good, ladies and gentlemen. I don't often go see a movie twice, but it was that good, and I did go see it twice. Just as good.
Yes,
good
it has to
as
strike
the
a
first
certain
time.
note, I think, for people to see it 2 or more times in theaters. But most people will probably wait until it comes out on DVD to buy it, and then they'll just play it ad nauseum at home. But I admit there are some films that I have seen twice in theaters. In fact, there's one that I've been talking about with Jay in recent years, but that I saw 3 times, but that's a totally different matter.
Absolutely right. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Evan Miller Report for this Monday, May the 11th, 2015. I'm Jason Miller.
And I'm Corey Evan. Follow us on Facebook.com/The Evan Miller Report and tweet us at EM Radio Report. You'd be glad you did. For us here at SHR Media, we thank you for listening. The weather is up next.
Good night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Once again, time we updated you on how we see things developing across both Canada and the USA over the next couple of days or so. This is a very active weather system indeed. At the top end, there's a lot of rain, some strong winds, and there's some dense fog patches. Further south, the worry has been about a lot of tornadic activity, damaging hail, some strong gusts of wind. You see it makes a little bit of progress ever further towards the east during the course of Tuesday. Following behind, something slightly quieter, but no doubt a good deal fresher to feel. And then out towards the west, well, yes, there's still a scattering of rain and showers there to be had. It's more showery, I would have thought, across the western side of Canada, usually at elevation. Along the coast, I think essentially it's going to be a dry day, odd isolated shower. And then a little bit more about it as we come into the Pacific Northwest of the USA. I'm afraid it's again going to be another dry and warm day for the likes of California. Out towards the east, look at the temperatures, 29 degrees or so there, the low 80s Fahrenheit for New York. And then coming further south, this is where we see, yet again, that trailing portion of the front, so expect some thunderstorms, a little bit of hail, some gusty winds. Then New York, yeah, I did say 29, and then look at Wednesday, 18 only. A real drop in those temperatures as the northwesterly kicks in, brings in some cool air from across the border in Canada. And enjoy the dry start to the week. In Vancouver, it is sure not to last past Wednesday.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media